All right, there you go. Sonny, the thing about this that I find, again, is I look at it from a prosecutor's lens. And of course, I have to be looking at what the defense is presenting, and one, to see if I can rebut it, and two, be making an assessment like how damaging is this to my case. And the thing that strikes me about this compared to cases that I've tried previously is that there's a documented history here. And this history is pretty significant with regard to visual and auditory hallucinations, a diagnosis of psychosis, a diagnosis of bipolar, affective disorder, depression. This is all previous history, which is exacerbated by the drug use. So I know a lot of people may, in our audience, may sit there and say, well, she voluntarily took these drugs and, you know, that's on her. But when a judge is looking at mitigating factors under the law, and that's what this judge is doing, they've got to look at, is it likely this would reoccur? Is it likely treatment could be something that could make the person move into a more law-abiding scenario? And that's where it kind of dovetails with the father's testimony, saying that she is a loving person, she's caring, she's not a monster, she needed mental health care, that she could be fixed. Are these things starting to gel together, regardless of what the judge ultimately does, in order to present a decent mitigation defense?
I think it does. When you go back to the testimony of the cousin with the mental health experience, then you connect the dots with the father. Now you're connecting the dots with the expert witness on the stand. All of these things matter. There are people who are saying, well, we know she did this, but this is mitigation. It's how it works. And the extended drug use is really important. It's compounded. And when we talk about incarceration, we also talk about reform and treatment. So this all plays into the defense's background for mitigation factors that matter, to say this person has redeemable qualities, and the judge can look at this and say, this is not emotion. Stick to the facts and evidence, and I think this is how the judge is going to see all of these things. It doesn't play well for the public, who might not want to hear about the role of mitigation in law and the drugs and all of that, but this really is important testimony.
Yeah, and you know, that really brings up the point that we've been raising, that the importance of these arguments being made to a judge only making the sentencing, as opposed to a jury, which can be persuaded probably a little bit more emotionally, the judge sticking very strictly to those aggravating and mitigating factors. Sonny, I don't want to wax poetic here about this, but I've been through enough of this to see it, and I've often commented in my mind about, after the trial's over, after the sentencing's over, after the fanfare's over, even when the victim's family gets the just result, there seems to be a hollowness and an emptiness, a kind of, that's it, because they're in that fight for so long to get justice. And I found that people like this, that have this level of forgiveness and ability to corner that, do far better emotionally afterwards than people who are still understandably angry, twisted, and upset about the system, which could never give true justice.
I agree. I think the father really showed his humanity. And he said some very interesting words. He said, essentially, he saw her for who she was before this. He remembered who she was before this. And she did something bad, but he can recall who she was as a good person. And I think, you know, a lot of times when we're in the mix and in the emotion, like you said, we forget that. But he saw the humanity, and I think that we should take a step back.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, this is really an amazing moment, something that should be clipped out and put into your files to look at, because it's really incredible. That's it for Sunny Slaughter. She came in the studio. She wasn't sure she wanted to spend the whole 3 hours with me, but we're not going anywhere. We're going to be back on the other end of the break. Thank you, Sunny. Everybody.